Hello, my name's Anthony, and this is FPL Overpaid Over the Bar weekly interviews or videos that we are doing. Well, the first thing we want to do is to get to know some of the participants for the people in the mini league who haven't met the people they're playing against, which is fun because everybody's seeing their teams. And as Freddie said last week, it helps to put some background to the name that you see on on the um on the league. So, and it is Freddie this week who we are talking to. Freddie Speak, who is my sister's son, actually, her youngest son, my nephew. So, welcome, Freddie. How are you doing?
All good, all good. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, as I said in the chat, it was great to see the first one. I thought John spoke very well, and yeah, pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me.
It's very exciting for everyone, I'm sure, to see you because you have something a little bit different going on there. So, tell us where you're speaking to us from.
I'm speaking to you from my house in Bali. It's where I've lived for the past 6 years now. I've been in Asia pretty much since I was 19. I kind of went traveling and ended up staying, finding a job with a travel company. And yeah, I've been in Bali ever since, really. So yeah, that's where I
I
am.
like this. We all love this story. So, you were studying in Newcastle, right?
Yes.
You were doing a degree in Newcastle and you were not very happy.
No, far from it. I was lasted, I think it was something ridiculous, like 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks or something in Newcastle University, studying accounting and finance. And yeah, was having the worst time of my life. Still is the worst time of my life to this day. And yeah, dropped out. My best friend was like, come traveling with me. I'm doing 3 months around Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and got 2 months into that and started working in this hostel in Koh Phangan, which is the full moon island in the south of Thailand. And yeah, from I was working behind the bar in a hostel there for a while, and then got a job with this travel company that used to run backpacker tours through it. And yeah, that 3 months has turned into, I think we're getting on 7.5 years now. But
Really?
I
Is it
come
that long? Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. I first went traveling when I was 19 and I'm now 27. So
Wow.
yeah, it
Wow.
was I come back to the UK every year.
And what do your
I still
mates say when you go back to UK and say, yeah, well, I've got this really good job in Bali and I live in Bali?
um there's a mixture of happiness and envy, I guess. There's some people I choose to not talk to that much about it, and some people actually are interested
I
and ask
get
some
you.
questions. But yeah, it's yeah, I think they get to come out and visit and have someone show them around and have a nice villa to stay in. So they
Ah,
get the enjoyment
yeah, that,
of it as
yeah, they
well.
love it. So, um, football, I mean, you are a really good football player. I mean, I watched you play for your team in Lewis a few times as a teenager and even as a child, I think, and as an adult, and you're a really good player. You started supporting Arsenal. I don't know when you were seven. I don't know what age were you?
Yeah, for as long as I can remember, really, I've supported them. I think my brothers take the piss out of me for saying I was a Man United fan when I was like 4 years old, but I don't really remember it, to be honest. I've only ever supported Arsenal in my memory and have become progressively more and more diehard as I've gone along, I guess, but not quite as diehard as one of my other brothers, Adam, who's also in the fantasy league. But yeah,
I
no.
mean, yeah, Adam is a huge Arsenal fan. He's a season ticket holder. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
call him the Godzilla Gooner, but he's very, very, very big Arsenal fan.
okay, and he's he's one of your two older brothers who are twins, Adam and Robbie.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so fancy football now. I was told off by one of our viewers last week for making it too long, so I'm trying to get it in under 30 minutes this week, so I don't get any complaints this week. But uh, fancy football. You dropped out for a couple of years. You're a pretty good player. You've had some good ranks. I get the impression that you have in the past kind of just found other things to do halfway through the season. And also you're in Bali. So what's it like in Bali with the time gap? Because that is hard, isn't it?
Yeah, so it ranges between 7 and 8 hours ahead, depending on like the British time zone. But I watch the 90 minutes of every single Arsenal game. So like the Champions League last night against PSG, for example, I woke up in the morning and rewatched the full 90 without
Right.
knowing the score. So that's the way I kind of have to do it, like for midweek games. But for 3 p.m. kickoffs, it's 10 p.m. So it's okay on a weekend. But in terms of being able to do what John was talking about last week, in terms of watching multiple games in a day, that's very rare. So, like, the amount of football that I consume definitely goes down as a result of being out here. Like, I rarely watch Liverpool play 90 minutes unless they're playing Arsenal, for example.
Yeah.
So I don't get to see like slot as much and see all the new players and everything for each team. So that makes it harder.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think you need to watch football to be good at fantasy football, in all honesty. There's loads of people who
I mean, there's different
do.
ways of doing it. I mean, some people follow stats, some people follow the content on YouTube just and let other people make their decisions for them.
Yeah,
And actually there's a lot of validity with certain people on YouTube if you do that. And then there's some people who just watch a lot of football, like me. I mean, I kind of do all of that in a little way. I'm obsessed with fancy football. So anybody who's currently behind me in the league should not feel at all. They should feel proud that their life is not as sad as mine. Let's put it that way. Um, so so yeah, I wanted to interview you last week when you were top, but you actually were attending a conference in India, so we couldn't do it last week. And then suddenly after that, you after we tried to arrange that interview before actually the game week before last, in the last two
yes,
game weeks you've taken a bit of a battering.
absolutely. Yeah, I had probably the worst game week I think I ever will have had. I think I got 20 points or something. Every single player, like I didn't get one clean sheet, I think, in my whole team. No one scored or assisted, I think.
Right.
Maybe one assist. But yeah, shocking. Um,
Okay. Let's have a look. Let's see if I can get your team up on the screen. And you intend to play a wild card this week, is that right?
I do. I do. I've wanted to since the start, really. There's just been a lot of players who I've kind of really liked the look of, um, that I haven't been able to get in my team.
All right.
Uh,
So at the
so
minute, let's have a look. Let's have a look at your weakest links at the minute. Let's say Hudson Odoi, maybe. Who you transfer out?
I think I've the only players that remain in my team are Gabriel and Haaland, I
Hmm.
think.
Hmm. Okay. Do you want to flash that up
Yes.
on the? I'll stop my sharing and allow you to share. Maybe you can try and share your screen.
Yeah. So this is I was kind of just doing this before this call. Kind of going back to what you were talking about before in terms of me being not very good at lasting the full season. I've come back in this year with the rule of basically, apart from playing a wild card, every single weekend I'm never allowed to spend more than like a maximum of 10 minutes on my team. I just
Right.
look at my phone whilst I'm like on a bus or traveling somewhere in a taxi, and I'll just do it and just click confirm, and then I'll just look at the end of the game week. And I think I'll
Right.
be able to actually last the full season. I've
Right.
never been someone who can watch like YouTube videos about it. I've never had the obsession with it.
Yeah.
Um, I but quickly going through my team, I've wanted Raya in there from the start just because I think he's, no matter who Arsenal are playing against, I think they're as likely to get a clean sheet as any team in the league.
Absolutely.
Whether that's away to Spurs or at home to Southampton, it doesn't really make a difference. For the same reason, I'm keeping Gabriel in there, and just because of how much of a continued threat he's going to be. I don't know if teams are going to be able to work out a way to stop him or not. It's because of the way that Arsenal change their set pieces every week, I think it's very hard to set one defensive system that's ever going to be able to just stop Gabriel from getting on the end of the ball. And the way that he attacks corners, I've seen very few players be able to do it like him. In terms of the rest of my back four, I'm not too convinced by at this moment in time. Obviously, Harwood Bellis is just there as the cheap one
He
who's going to be
scored
sitting.
on, didn't he score on Monday?
He did, but he's still rated a four, valued at a 4.2, which is the cheapest you can get. So I put him in there, but he'll never actually be playing. Kanate, Ruben Diaz, and Mazraoui. Mazraoui's cheap and he's always going to start for United. Kanate looks like he's kind of nailed down his spot in the Liverpool starting 11. Although I've done something which is Kanate is my only Liverpool player. And the
Hmm.
reason for that, which I think is very dangerous, but the reason is because I think we're going to see Liverpool, in my opinion, falter quite a lot in the next
Oh,
like 8 weeks.
this is an interesting
Uh,
prediction based on what?
Based on, I think they're getting a lot of praise for playing poor teams,
Right.
and they have had the easiest fixtures that you could ever dream of for a
Yeah.
new manager. And yes, they've done well, but they haven't really impressed me to a massive amount. I think they're getting a huge amount of praise in the media, and I'm not really
Are
sure
they?
why.
I had noticed people
Yeah.
saying about their fixtures though. I mean, I listen more to the fancy football content and they're very much on the fact that their fixtures are getting harder.
They're even to the point where, which obviously I know is very terrible media, but the Overlap the Sky Sports do a podcast where Jamie Carragher and Paul Scholes were sitting in front of like all football fans. They do like a Q&A, and they were talking
Mm-hmm.
about this week how Scholes was saying that he thinks Liverpool are about as level as Arsenal in terms of challenging for the title this season. That it's
Okay. Okay. So as
like
an Arsenal fan, you're like, no way.
there's just not a chance in my
Oh,
mind,
ooh,
like
well.
not a chance. In terms of, I think it will be Arsenal and City and the rest. I don't think Liverpool have got the steal, but I might be wrong in 8 weeks' time.
I think
We
you
will
might
see.
be right. I mean, if I had to say now after 6 games, I mean, what I always look at in the Premier League these days is who controls midfield. Um, and Arsenal control midfield a lot better than Liverpool do. And when they came up against Forest at home, they showed that they actually can be overrun a bit in midfield if the other team gets their stuff together. So, yeah, not a bad shout, I'd say. Interesting to see if
Yeah,
you'll be right. You have no
I think
Saka in this team.
I have no Saka in this team. If you if I am his biggest fan in the whole world, by the way. Like I have always rated him ridiculously highly. However, if you were gonna say to me who's gonna get more points over the next 10 weeks, Saka or Trossard, the fact that it's even a question in my head tells me that I should save the 3.3 million or whatever it is and
Okay,
go for Trossard.
logical.
Um, Trossard scores more goals than Saka when he plays,
Hmm.
and he's probably the best. Well, he's definitely the best finisher in our team. And now that Erdegaard's out for the foreseeable, he's going to be starting in that central position every game.
Okay, I like that. I
Arteta,
mean, it's definitely a brilliant price. It's
yeah,
definitely value, isn't it? 6.9. And I have to
and
get rid
not
of Ben White because I mistakenly brought him in my wild card. So I'm looking at
yeah.
that thinking, well, I need three Arsenal. So if I get rid of Ben White, I can do two transfers and get Trossard in. So now you got me thinking.
Mm. I think Trossard will appear in a high amount of squads in the foreseeable. I think he's kind of gone under the radar a bit.
Yeah.
But he scores goals whenever he's on the pitch,
And against
and because,
Southampton, he'll be the one that nicks it.
yes, for sure, he
It's
always.
like one of those games where you need someone to nick a goal to get it underway because they'll be low blocking,
Yeah,
presumably.
for
I
sure.
don't know actually. I'm not sure with Southampton. Sometimes they like possession, but anyway.
Yeah, they seem to be maybe another Burnley story this season, but we'll see whether
Right.
they kind of whether they change and start playing a bit more low block, or whether they persist with playing this out from the back football against teams that are way better than them. It's hard to see. But the other players, Rodgers, I just absolutely love him. When Arsenal played Villa earlier this season, I thought he was by far the best player on the pitch. We beat them 2-0, but his performance did not deserve that at all. He destroyed Partey from like the first minute till the
Really?
last. He ran off the back of him like 10 times, dribbled past him, was bullying him off the ball. I just think he looks like such a good talent. For 5.2, I think he scored last week as well. So hopefully he can carry
Yep.
that on.
Yep.
Embuemo and Palmer very much kind of speak for themselves. Embuemo,
Yeah.
obviously, with Whitlock getting injured now, he's up top every single game. He's Brentford's main man. Um, Kovacic is only in there just because of how cheap he is, and now with Rodri injured, it looks like he's
I'm
going to.
looking at that. I'm the only one I question because at 5.5 in midfield, you can get better options than him, I think. I just urge you to have another look at the 5.5 options in midfield before you make a final decision on that.
Okay.
Because I think there's a few players in there that at that price in midfield at the minute that will return more often than him. Although you never know. He's gonna. I think without Rodri, he'll play even deeper than he normally plays. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, the thing that I like about Kovacic, he's just got such a good strike on him.
He's a
So
great
from like the
player.
edge from the edge of the box, I just think when balls bounce out to him, he's always got a few goals in him.
Hmm.
But
Sure.
because of how kind of stacked my midfield is, I'm not really sure I'd be playing him most weeks anyway, really.
Oh,
But
okay. He's a bench man, really. Okay. All right.
I think it's more for when maybe Brentford have a really tough away game and maybe Villa do as well. I don't know.
Okay.
Um, and then up top, I really wanted Havertz, but I can only have three Arsenal players. Nicholas Jackson, I, I, I really don't like him as a player. I think it's just finishing is
I
painful.
absolutely love him.
I in front of goal, he's just one of the
I
most
love him.
wasteful players.
But the runs he makes are so amazing, and Palmer sees them every time.
Yeah, yeah. Chelsea is another one that have a lot of hard fixtures coming up, and it'll be interesting to see how they do when they get tested against a better team. But they for sure look like they're playing quite well. And then Delap and Haaland. Haaland is Haaland. He's been in from the start, but Delap is. I'm only basing that just off 190 minutes that I watched, and I got to watch 20 minutes of the Villa game the other day. I
Hmm.
just really like how powerful and direct, and he just looks a bit fearless when he's playing. He just
Yeah.
grabs the ball, drives forward into space, and I love that about players. And that is the only reason why he's in the team. Not because I necessarily think that he's going to get me loads of points, but
I tell you
I think
what, I think Ipswich are going to beat West Ham.
really,
Yeah.
I did. I put in an early prediction about Lopetegui that all the West Ham fans were going to really, really regret how they treated David Moyes when they see another manager come in and try to play expansive football. But it really doesn't look like it's going so well for them at the moment.
I think Ipswich are going to beat them. Anyway, so Haaland will be your captain, I'm presuming, this weekend.
For sure, for
Okay.
sure. I if I go, yeah. So Kovacic, Hold, Bellas, and well, Rogers would be here.
Okay.
I haven't actually done this, but this I
Right.
think maybe Rogers would come in. Oh no, yeah, no. I think that's my starting 11. Um, Haaland for sure, captain. I haven't done my vice captain, but sitting on Jackson. Um, oh, actually, Palmer against Nottingham Forest at home.
Yep.
Well, I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't have Haaland, so for me, it's between Palmer, Saka, and possibly Trossard now if I buy Trossard. But I mean, I don't know. Fulham at home for Haaland. I don't know if you've got Haaland for 15 million, like surely you captain him.
Mm.
I mean, what's the point of spending 15 million on Haaland if you don't captain him? That's the only thing I would say.
Mm. It's yeah, I think it's just the recency bias, as they call it. It's
Yeah.
been part
You know,
of
this
the
is the
weekend.
funniest thing about FPL. I mean, I don't know if people are aware that you don't get points, you don't get anything for players who've already scored points. You know, that
Yeah.
transfers in. It's like Palmer suddenly got 200,000 transfers in. It's like, what, you don't get those 4 goals you just had. Like, he doesn't do that every week. It's like, yeah, anyway.
It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Nottingham Forest, as they proved against Liverpool at Anfield, they're not an easy team to beat. So it'll be interesting to see how if Palmer can get a couple of goals against them. God, that's going to be a tough decision who to put in as captain.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. That looks like a sensible wild card to me. I can't see any reason why that wouldn't do well. Tell us about paddle.
Paddle's my so basically as you mentioned before, I used to be absolutely obsessed with football, not just as a fan, but as a player. And it was kind of like a massive part of my life. And I then just kept on getting more and more injuries and would spend 75% of my life in rehab of injuries and then
Right.
25% playing. And it just became not worth it anymore because it
Yeah.
just affects your mood so much when you're injured. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
basically semi-retire from football at the age of 25,
Oh God.
and just decide to not play it anymore. And then I found padel, which is basically it's a mixture of like tennis and squash. I'm sure a lot of people will have seen it by now. It's definitely picking up speed around the world. Um, but yeah, a small tennis court with walls basically. And I've been playing that for the last 2 years,
Yeah.
and it's just exploded in Bali and is so big over here.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it's my new obsession to the same level that football actually was, which I never thought anything would be able to be
Really?
quite close to it. Yeah, I play it like 4 times a week, 5 times a week. Touch wood, I haven't got any serious injuries from it yet. Just it is a lot lighter on the body
Okay.
and
And
absolutely.
you won something. Is this right?
Yeah, so because it's so big in Bali, because it's so big in Bali, they have big competitions now, and I that was me winning the what they call the high gold male tournament, which they do tournaments in ranks, and the top rank, which is the rank that I think I can now play in because I've won in this tournament, which is basically a lot of the coaches. Um, and all the kind of ex-tennis pros and stuff. So they're all the gap between the tournament I played in and them is quite big, but
Yeah.
I still won the second rank, which yeah, was a big achievement for me. I was very, very happy with it and got lots of nice prizes, which was fun.
Prizes as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah, they have such big sponsors from loads of businesses in Bali because of how big it is over here.
Okay. All right. A bit of Q&A for you to finish with. First of all, best favorite Arsenal player in history.
For me personally, and this is a very controversial one, it's always been Cesc Fabregas. He
Wow.
was the similar position that I
The
played
thing is,
growing.
when I saw you play, that was the player that you always reminded me of more than any other player in terms of like your distribution and your position and your movement was very similar to him, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I very embarrassingly at the age of I think 16 years old, I cried on a bus when I found out that he joined Chelsea and he wasn't coming back to Arsenal because I thought when he left Barcelona he was coming back, but
Okay.
Wenger turned him down for Özil. But yeah, no, he was always my idol growing up. But obviously Henry's up there, but Fabregas for me.
That's very interesting because anybody would have expected Henri or even Saka maybe or possibly even Bergkamp. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I love that. All right. Next question. Who would you most want to win the FPL overpaid over the bar if you don't win it this season? You are allowed to choose one of your brothers.
Definitely not choosing one of my brothers. But I think, well, to be honest, it would be funny if Adam managed to win it, considering he's on minus 300 points. um, It's a bit of a I think it's the same answer as last week actually, but I'd love Keith to win it. I've always even though I've never seen his face, I always every single message he puts in the chat seems to make me laugh, and yeah, his teams are always a bit different as well. So yeah, I
Okay.
just think of him as a tiger icon because that's just what he is in WhatsApp. But yeah, Keith.
Okay. Most hated. No, no, no. Let's go with the positive stuff. Favorite player in the Premier League that doesn't play for Arsenal?
I'm guessing I'm not allowed to say Smith Rowe.
Yeah, really. Because I mean, he's still an Arsenal player. Evidently, he wins the Fulham Player of the Week every single week online because all the Arsenal fans vote for him.
Yeah. Um, God, that's a tough question, actually. Who? Oh, God.
You like John last week. It's like I can't be put on the spot. I'm going to start sending these questions in advance.
I think in terms of just performances this season, I would have to just go with Morgan Rogers. I thought he was unbelievable against
Really?
Arsenal.
That's
I
interesting. I
think
haven't seen enough of Villa. I need to see more of them actually.
if you have a spare 90 minutes,
I
watch
do.
watch back against Arsenal. He absolutely destroyed us.
Right. That
So
was the
good.
game at the end of last season.
No, no, this season we beat them 2-0. It was like four
Wait. Oh
weeks ago.
yeah, you played them already.
It was at Villa Park. Yeah, the double save from Ollie
Oh
Watkins
yeah, yeah,
down
yeah, yeah.
when he jumped up off the floor. But yeah, no, but I would say Morgan Rogers. I love the look of him. He's hopefully he'll be in the England squad and pretty soon.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Um, I had another question there, but I've not put it in front of me. And that's very unprofessional, so I can't remember what it is now. We're going to close up there. We keeping it as I'm not sure. I think we're on 35 minutes possibly at the minute. So well done. I won't have to edit this, which is wonderful. So,
Nice.
thank you so much, Freddie, and great to see your face and great to speak to you. And
You too.
yeah, uh, and have a good FPL season, and I hope everything goes well there in Bali.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you. Speak to you soon.
Great stuff. Bye bye.